Now I see what would have happened on the set of Good Times if Norman Lear had full creative control and the late Esther Roll and John Amos didn't get in his face about all the stereotypes on that show. Sad. Just sad. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes' Illuminati, the man who rules the world, takes on the head of the global elite in this all-new action-packed John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' Illuminati in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Better get the coleslaw, y'all, cause we're having us a barbecue. I got a chance to watch the trailer for Netflix's Good Times. Now, Netflix has decided to reboot the 1970s CBS sitcom Good Times on their platform, and they decided instead of making it a live action sitcom, they decided to make it an animated series. And after watching this trailer, I just basically had to facepalm and shake my head because I didn't have a good time watching this trailer for Good Times, because this Good Times trailer basically shows me a modern day minstrel show that breathes brand new life into old stereotypes. Now, this Good Times reboot basically shows me everything that would have happened if the late Esther Roll and John Amos didn't speak up on the set of the 1970s version of Good Times and push back against many of the racist stereotypes that Norman Lear wanted to present on the original Good Times. Now, the original Good Times was a show made by Norman Lear because he knew that black people were desperate for their image and would basically watch anything because we had no standard for ourselves, and Bill Cosby hadn't come up at the time to get the Cosby Show out. So basically what we were going to get was a TV show based on a white person's view of black and not our own version of ourselves. And with Good Times, it was an opportunity for Norman Lear to participate in a passive-aggressive campaign to push his anti-black stereotypes on his show, where passively, yes, we would get black representation on a TV screen, but aggressively what he would do is promote anti-black stereotypes between the lines of that show, where instead of us laughing with the Evans family about life situations, we would be laughed at by white people who would laugh at seeing this poor, miserable, downtrodden black family never get success. Because that's the trope that was pushed in the original Good Times. It was all about pushing a white supremacist narrative about black people never achieving success. That was something that was pushed in all of the media, from the literary canon of black authors they allowed to be published, like the late Richard Wright. All the media had to show black people failing because what white supremacy wanted to program in people's minds was the point that they wanted to say black people couldn't be successful. And as you watch these characters in media, you would get a sense to create a self-fulfilling prophecy for yourself. And that's basically what they want to do with this reboot of Good Times, which says that the characters are based on the next generation of the Evans family, basically the third generation of the Evans family, and they don't get the success that the original Evans family got in 1979. Now, in the final season of Good Times, we finally saw the Evans family finally get out of the ghetto, and they got out of the ghetto after they wound up killing James Evans because John Amos just got fed up. And as John Amos got fed up, Norman Lear decided to fire John Amos, and that's why the Evans family lost their father. Now, the whole concept of a father being in the projects, that was complete BS, because in order to get in the projects, a person had to come from a household where the father wasn't in the home. And that basically fit the producers' ideas about black people, but those ideas basically came out of these right racists, again, looking to divide the family. But what they wanted to do was, again, promote stereotypes about black people, and that's what they're doing on this Good Times reboot, putting it and setting it in the Cabrini Green housing projects that no longer exist. Now, I know that a lot of those projects were torn down, because if you watch Mr. Superboy's videos, he talks about Chicago and how Chicago has changed, but because these white leftist producers basically want to get their version of black people on screen, we get a return to those Cabrini Green housing projects, which is completely mind-boggling. But this is white folks basically wanting to have their version of black people's world on screen and not our own. Now, this new version of Good Times takes place, again, back at those housing projects, and without any John Amos or Esther Rolle around to push back against all these racist stereotypes. What we get is a concentrated, unfiltered version of the original Good Times, remixed with the premise from the cast of the Cleveland show and the premise from the PJs. I mean, we basically get the Cleveland show, Good Times, and the PJs blended together to give us one of the crappiest shows I have ever seen in my life, because this is a modern day minstrel show designed to show the worst aspects of black life. I mean, we've got the entire Family Guy premise mixed in with some of the worst stereotypes known to man. We've got the bumbling, stumbling black dad in the projects. We've got the mother who's talking about how she worships white Jesus, has blonde hair on her head and a Christian cross around her neck. And we've got the dumb JJ that they originally planned for Jimmy Walker to play, that Esther Rolle pushed back on, because Esther Rolle, when she was alive, she talked about how they wanted the son to be this ignorant black male who was out here stealing and talking jive. And basically that's what we got with the son. And we've got the daughter, who's a bit of a Michael and Thelma mashup, because they don't want us to see a beautiful, attractive black woman who loves herself, which is what Bernadette Stannis was playing. And they don't want us to see her as attractive, so they make her a bit masculine. And then they throw in the usual Seth MacFarlane boyfriend in a Pookie. And then we have a drug-dealing baby. And the entire show is a slap in the face to foundational black Americans. It's a complete insult to us overall, because instead of creating a sitcom that allows us to laugh with people about our life situations, what we get is a show that is basically designed for white racists to get a laugh at our expense, and get a laugh so that they can see the smooth world they want to see regarding black people, not who we actually are, like I present on the SJS Direct imprint. Because what these producers want us to go and get their passive-aggressive laughs at us, because what they want to do is passively go out here and say, oh, we made a animated series that features black people passively, but aggressively what they want to do is create a sitcom where they can go out here and get their jollies at making fun of the worst parts of black life, and put on a modern day minstrel show where they can go out here and create black characters who participate in blackface, and get black actors to put the blackface on when they do the voiceovers. Because that's basically what the late Norman Lear and Seth MacFarlane are doing. And this whole show should be suspect to most black people, because here we got two of the biggest racists out here making a black show. And when you've got two of the biggest racists making a black show, you're not going to get a show that is designed to elevate or empower us. And what's even sadder is many of these black performers on this show who are doing the voiceovers are bootlicks. So this is the perfect form of entertainment for many of the leftists who want to say they're not racist, because they can, again, passively say that they are representing black people, but aggressively they're presenting anti-black racism on screen in this Good Times reboot, and the only people having a good time are those rednecks in the South and these intellectualized leftists in the North. These intellectualized leftists, they're basically just having a good time because they figure they got one over on black people, and they figure they got one over on us because, yeah, they greenlit a reboot of Good Times, and they got NBA player Steph Curry to sign off on it, similar to the way they got that jackass LeBron James to sign off on a House Party remake, a remake that once again takes a classic movie that showed the best of black people and gave us a modern day minstrel show that showed us basically on the level of buck dancing and tap dancing that people like the cast of Amos and Andy used to. And what they looked to do is basically make the movie they originally wanted with the House Party remake, showing us being a bunch of clowns. And with this Good Times reboot, they're the only ones having a good time because they get to finally make the Good Times sitcom they originally wanted to make in the 1970s. And now they can do that because there are a lot of black people out here who really grew up without critically thinking. And sadly, because 40 years right after The Cosby Show, we don't have a lot of people who are still with a sense of awareness that that show gave Gen Xers like myself. Now, when I look at this Good Time show, it basically makes me really appreciate everything Bill Cosby did back in the 1980s, because with The Cosby Show, he finally gave us pictures of black people from a black perspective that gave us balanced, humanized people and showed us a world of black people who came from a walk of life that a lot of people from the 70s originally came from, because people who originally came from the 70s, they weren't all in the projects. Now, some people did grow up poor, like I did growing up in the South Bronx, but a lot of folks were able to go out here and start getting jobs, start making some money, start buying homes and stuff, and start building lives. But the mainstream media didn't want to show us that picture, and if it wasn't for God working through Bill Cosby, we would never get that picture and see ourselves as we actually were. And I thank God that I was blessed to live in that golden age of entertainment for black people and see all of those rich multidimensional pictures and TV shows. I mean, I thank God that I was blessed to see The Cosby Show. I was blessed to see A Different World. I was blessed to see Hollywood Shuffle and House Party and see all of these rich multidimensional pictures of black people, and even see it in movies like Strictly Business and even that low-budget film Living Large. I am grateful to be able to have been able to see all those films and see that rich picture of black people before the NWA ushered in a new minstrel age, and John Singleton's film Boys in the Hood was manipulated to create a hood narrative that took us on a state of entertainment decline for black people that basically culminated in the climax of Monsters Ball, which took us into this dark period we're currently in, where black entertainment is basically a sewer, and Good Times is another piece of shit that is in that sewage, and really makes me sad for all of the people of this generation who never got a chance to see a show like The Cosby Show or understand its impact on creators like myself, because one of the reasons why I started working on writing positive stories about black people is because in the 90s, when I heard about Boys in the Hood and I saw Ice Cube on Oprah Winfrey, I understood back then as a teenager that the tide was getting ready to turn, and I dedicated myself to picking up the legacy of Bill Cosby and creating positive stories about black people on the SJS Direct imprint that I established in 2009. And when I see shows like this that are created by clueless individuals like Steph Curry and racist opportunists like Seth MacFarlane and Norman Lear, I really understand why new black media like the SJS Direct imprint are important, because the SJS Direct imprint basically is one of the few platforms that's going to show you balanced, humanized images of black people and show you a richer world of black people and show you that you don't have to be intergenerationally dysfunctional like the narrative they wanted to present about the Evans family in this Good Times reboot, because as someone who grew up and saw the original Evans family get out of the ghetto, and somebody who writes about getting out of the ghetto in stories like I've written, like John Haynes' 1987 and The Temptation of John Haynes, and many of the other books I've written like the Isis and Esteem series, and it can show you a picture of Harlem that shows you the richer picture of what was built by black people in Spellbound and the Spinsterella trilogy books. I mean, I can show you a richer, more balanced picture of black people, and that was started by me watching The Cosby Show, and that show basically inspired me to go back full circle to where Bill Cosby's characters lived in Brooklyn Heights when I wrote the novel A Recipe for Success. I mean, I know that there's a bigger picture of black people, and a bigger picture than what these Hollywood types want you to see, because what the Hollywood types like Seth MacFarlane and the late Norman Lear want you to see is a ghetto, because what they want to program your mind with is the fact that you can't have success, because what white supremacy wants you to see is a world where you don't see yourself as successful, you don't see yourself as winning, you don't see yourself accomplishing anything, and that instills a thought in your subconscious mind that has you believing that the only black people can do is fail. And that's what really disgusted me about the original Good Time show, and disgusted me about a lot of those shows in the 70s. They showed black people on screen, but they didn't show black people accomplishing anything. And that's what this Good Times reboot is all about. Programming an idea in your mind that you can't accomplish anything, you can't achieve anything, you can't succeed in anything. And that's why this media is toxic. I mean, this modern day minstrel show, it not only is something made for white leftists and people on the white right to get laughs and anti-black racism, it's the worst thing about it is that it instills ideas in young people's minds that basically makes them spellbound, where they're thinking that they have to fit themselves into a black box that is acceptable to white people, where they have to accept failure instead of persevering to achieve success. I mean, this whole show is just absolute trash, and another reason why I will never go back to Netflix for a subscription. I mean, I walked away from Netflix in 2020 because of that crap Cuties movie that was just absolute trash, made by a black woman who was involved with a white man, and I will never go back to Netflix. I mean, I am willing to stand on my ground. I don't care if WWE Raw is on Netflix. You ain't getting a dime of my money when you disrespect me. And this Netflix Good Time show, I wasn't having a good time seeing this on screen, because it takes me back to the dark days of the 1970s, the dark days of the 1970s where black people thought they had to settle for this kind of show. And what's really sad is that because of Tyler Perry and Lee Daniels and Oprah Winfrey, this is the standard. And instead of us going beyond the standard of Bill Cosby and us finally starting to thinking about further branching out from the success of Black Panther, where we were starting to see black people in fantasy and science fiction, seeing black people playing richer, more diverse roles with range, what we get is a step back to these minstrel shows that take us back to the 1930s. And that's why I hold Halle Berry definitely accountable, because she basically created the ultimate crescendo for all of this crap from the gangsta era to turn into a new second golden age of minstrels. And if it wasn't for people like myself in new black media with the SJS Direct imprint, there wouldn't be many positive pictures of black people to see of themselves. And it's clear to me that we cannot trust Hollywood at this point. No, when it comes to black media, we need people who are responsible and conscientious about new black media to start creating positive images of ourselves. And we, brothers and sisters, have to start supporting new black media, because it's clear that when it comes to the mainstream media, they want their smooth world where they don't have to deal with the conflicts, problems, or obstacles of human black people. And since they don't want to deal with human black people, inspiring other black people to compete in their world, They want to create shows like Good Times and give us the worst of black people when we need, and the only way for us to get the show about ourselves is to support independent black creators like myself and support our work so that we can go out here and continue to provide good positive media to you, because what I want to do is uplift and empower brothers and sisters with the stories I tell about black businesses, black sororities, black goths, black people in positions of power, images that will uplift and empower you and images that will show you the best about yourself, because that's what I grew up with. And again, I thank God I grew up in that golden age, because it's clear to me that Hollywood wants to keep black people in the sludge of a new modern minstrel era with garbage like this Good Times reboot. Now, if you want to pick up some of my positive black fiction on the SJS Direct imprint, like the books in the ISIS series, the books in the Esteem series, the books in the John Haynes series, and novels like The Temptation of John Haynes, A Recipe for Success, the books in the Spinsterella trilogy, Spellbound, the legendary Mad Matilda Spinsterella, and my black vampire novel, Eternal Night, and many of my nonfiction, like my men's issues books. You can find all of those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format, and you can also find them at other online booksellers like Draft to Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and you can find them at big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to pick up my first full SJS Direct comic, John Haynes at Death's Door, which shows you a positive image of black manhood and black masculinity, you can find that comic on Lulu.com by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to see me be able to make more positive black fiction and positive black comics and more YouTube videos, you can send a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS Legacy. Sorority secrets of the goddess next door are revealed in this all-new ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS Legacy in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback and e-readers, All About Nikki, a fabulous first season. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air meets Clueless in this absolutely fabulous African-American 1990s teen sitcom. Get all 13 episodes of All About Nikki, the fabulous first season, in paperback and e-readers today. Support black-owned and black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.